Not since 1978's Halloween has there been a film more influential to the horror genre than 1996's Scream.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
A slasher story that attracted big names and turned its unknowns into stars, it spawned 3 sequels with another on the way.
Who'd want to do that? Sequels suck.
Until the release of 2018's Halloween, it was the highest grossing slasher film of all time.
Cut, Casper. That's a wrap.
It may not have created a new kind of storytelling, but it helped codify it.
Why would you be calling from my front porch?
That's the original part.
Scream has its detractors, and those who claim it doesn't count as a horror, but, like it or not, it changed the game completely.
You like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
But of course, that wasn't the intent.
What's the boogeyman?
As a matter of fact, it was.
Halloween is recognised as the true birth of the slasher genre, establishing the formula of an unstoppable killer picking off rebellious young people.
Is anybody home?
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Black Christmas came first, but it was Halloween's runaway success that led to Friday the 13th ripping it off to great effect, and thus we had ourselves a subgenre.
Please, God.
This is God.
With Nightmare on Elm Street following in 1984, this brought us to what Bloody Disgusting called the golden age of slashers. Low-budget indie films with no major stars, able to be as explicit as they want, were guaranteed financial hits. Jamie Lee Curtis in particular had her Hollywood career launched by starring in 3 of these.
How come Jamie Lee Curtis is in all of these movies?
She's the Scream.
But that's not to say this was really a golden time. While there were always filmmakers who wanted to try something new, and there were a few hidden gems, the majority of the slashers were on the formulaic side.
Some stupid killer stalking some big-breasted girl who can't act, who's always running up the stairs when she should be going out the front door. It's insulting.
The 3 trendsetters churned out sequel after sequel of lesser quality, gore and spectacle took the place of substance, and the imitators became even shallower.
Tits. See?
The slasher genre quickly got stale and had burnt itself out by the end of the 80s. In comes a writer called Kevin Williamson. Initially drafting a short story about a woman taunted over the phone by a serial killer, he had bills to pay, and in 3 days had expanded it into a screenplay, then titled Scary Movie.
Halloween. No, the one with the guy in the white mask who walks around and stalks babysitters.
The script had several loving references to the horror films he'd enjoyed in the past.
Freddy, that's right. I like that movie. It was scary.
Wow, well the first one was, but the rest sucked.
And it ended up in the hands of the very man who directed Nightmare on Elm Street.
I did not write that line.
Wes Craven was initially reluctant to sign on, as he was growing tired of doing horror, but he changed his mind once he heard Drew Barrymore had joined the cast.
Now for the real question.
This also attracted other names to the project, including Friends star Courteney Cox in the role of Gale Weathers, and rising star Rose McGowan as Tatum.
Nice welt, sweetie. Let's go, Sid.
Drew was signed on to play the lead role of Sidney Prescott, but had to drop out because of other commitments. Still really keen on the film, and to give it the advantage of her name, she took the smaller role of Casey Becker, and Sidney went to Party of 5 actress Neve Campbell. So that's how we got here. Let's take a look at what we got.
Casey, you upstairs?
Casey, baby.
Starting off with the Casey Becker scene, it's hard to put yourself in the perspective of a 1996 audience to whom Drew Barrymore was the biggest name in the cast.
I want to know who I'm talking to.
That's not what you said.
It's become a running gimmick in the franchise that the opening kill is always a recognizable name, and Fear Street 1994 even homaged it. But it followed the same formula as Psycho, in which name actress Janet Leigh, set up as the protagonist, meets her end at the halfway mark. The marketing was careful to hide this, and Casey's death was a legitimate shock at the time. It wasn't the first film to do this, of course, or even the first horror, but it's arguably one of the most effective. Thankfully, even if the shock factor is lessened by pop culture, the scene itself still holds up thanks to the combination of Kevin Williamson's writing, Wes Craven's direction, and Drew Barrymore's performance.
You tricked me. Lucky for you, there's a bonus round.
One of the reasons I think the Scream franchise has avoided the badness that befell the Halloween sequels is actually rather simple. Both Kevin Williamson and Wes Craven understood that every victim is important. Take a slasher like The House on Sorority Row, that has good ideas, but falls a bit flat because each of the girls is interchangeable. You have Katie, the final girl, and Vicky, the alpha bitch, and the rest are just cannon fodder. And in a slasher film, it's a common trap to make the victims shallow and one-dimensional, and thus it's all about the spectacle of the kills.
Can I be the helpless victim? Okay, let's see. No, please don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. I want to be in the sequel.
Scream gives everyone something memorable, and creates some meaningful character development so that each death has its own importance.
You're forgiven. Bye now.
Even Casey has just 15 minutes of screen time at the start, but feels like a rounded character the audience can root for.
What?
I want to talk to you for a second.
They've got 900 numbers for that. See ya.
And while in all the classic slashers, except maybe the first Friday the 13th, the audience knows who the killer is from the start, Scream's strength is adding in a whodunit element.
I found this.
The red herrings and misdirections are expertly played, especially with Billy being set up as a false suspect and then revealed as the killer after all.
Works better without the safety on.
And at the time, the big twist was that there were two killers.
You see, Sid, everybody dies, but us. Everybody dies, but us. We're gonna carry on.
Again, that's been dulled slightly by all the sequels except 3 having to, but even when you know the twist, there are lots of clever foreshadowings hidden in plain sight, particularly in Billy and Sydney's relationship.
But it's just that I want my girlfriend back.
On the first watch, they just seem like a couple struggling because of Sydney's baggage.
So you have a few intimacy issues as a result of your mother's untimely death. It's no big deal, Sid.
On the second, you can identify the signs of Billy emotionally abusing her to lure her into a false sense of security.
He has been so patient with me. You know, with all the sex stuff. How many guys would put up with a girlfriend who's sexually anorexic?
Speaking of Sydney, it really has to be said what a great character this is.
What am I doing? Huh? Huh? What am I doing? Hello?
The final girl is often forced to be the vanilla one, or at least she is in the worst entries. Jess and Nancy were probably the most interesting final girls in the first wave of slashers. Sydney, however, is almost the perfect lead for this kind of film.
Well, I call your bluff.
Troubled but likeable, innocent yet self-aware, and delicate while still able to fight back.
Not in my movie.
The storyline of a young woman both dealing with intimacy fears because of her mother's promiscuity and knowingly condemning an innocent man just to preserve a false image of said mother is pretty gripping stuff. And that's even before the killers start attacking.
You know, if I was wrong about Cotton Weary, then the killer's still out there.
While I'm divided on Neve Campbell's acting in The Craft, she does incredible work here.
Maybe she's a slut, just like her mother. You're evil. Ladies, it's a common fact. Her mother was a tramp.
The rest of the cast are all spot on, helping the characters feel three-dimensional.
So you do watch the show?
I'm 25. I was 24 for a whole year.
The women get a nice deal in particular.
Do you mind if I join you?
Not at all.
Although Gail Weathers is first presented as the bitch, and the sequels did kind of turn her into a caricature, she has plenty of layers that definitely wouldn't be there in the hands of a lesser writer or director.
Guess I remember the safety that time, you bastard.
And while Tatum is in the supportive best friend role, she's got a three-dimensional personality and steals every scene.
Cute. And what movie is this from? I spit on your garage.
In fact, including 3 such strong female characters along with the name actresses, including Drew Barrymore, was a move by the studio in the hopes of drawing more female viewers.
I like that ending.
With all the discussions about the drawing power of female-led shows that are still happening, it's pretty neat that Scream recognised that women watch horror films too, and encouraged a male audience to identify with a young woman's story.
I always had a thing for you, Sid.
The male cast members get plenty as well, with Jamie Kennedy's Randy being something of an icon for me in my teen years.
This is the moment when the supposedly dead killer comes back to life for one last scare.
I also often use Matthew Lillard as an example of a risky choice that ultimately pays off.
My mom and dad are gonna be so mad.
Going this hammy could have just been Tommy Wiseau levels of ridiculous, but here it works, and makes Stu unnerving to watch.
God damn it, Stu! Sorry, Billy. I guess I got a little too zealous, huh?
One of the most disturbing scenes in Scream isn't one of the kills, but this part of Billy and Stu stabbing each other.
Ah! Ah!
He's sick for fuck's sake. You've seen one too many.
Nah, Sid! Don't you blame the movies!
I feel as though Scream's reputation as the subversive one has led to a lot of people remembering it as 2 hours of sarcastic characters making fun of slasher cliches, when in actuality, it's still really effective as a horror.
Kenny!
I mean, my favourite sequence in the whole thing is probably this part. Throughout the second act, little things have been carefully planted like the spy camera and 30-second delay, and when they come into play, it's like several landmines going off at once. Scream builds to its third act and plot twists perfectly, and the resulting payoff does not disappoint.
In your dreams.
So Scream is not all just about deconstruction and self-awareness. This one still has some very obvious love to the genre it's commenting on.
Behind you, kid!
In short, it's the good kind of subversive. The story of Scream's success at the box office is one that most rising filmmakers dream of.
And they were like, it made 30 million. And I was like, oh no. I thought that was bad. You know, I didn't know that 30 million was a really big deal. And they're like, no, that's really good. And I think by the third weekend we were at 100 million. It was insane.
It coincidentally mirrored the one that got the party started. A smaller budget passion project that wasn't created to cash in on something else's success, but ended up doing incredible business and launching the career of a great young actress who thankfully still honors her horror roots.
The original Halloween was made in 17 days with 12 people. I mean, the crew was super small and everybody was young, and there was magic happening.
The franchise Scream became thankfully didn't tarnish anything with inferior sequels like so many others. Yes, I even find things to like in the third film. It's actually the fourth that's my second favourite.
Clear.
But nothing can top the original for me. Even one or two of the imitators are films I have a soft spot for. Because of course, Scream's success led to a second wave of slasher films, now with a similar self-aware tone.
This is usually the point where somebody says, let's get the fuck out of here.
Let's get the fuck out of here.
And while copycats and the changing film landscape have cheapened some of its freshness, again, much like Halloween, it has a certain finesse that still allows it to stand the test of time. For me, honestly, Scream is a near-perfect film.
Several more local teens are dead, bringing to an end the harrowing mystery of the mass killings that has terrified this peaceful community, like the plot of some scary movie. It all began with the scream of